Welcome to the Dominican Republic, a country in the Caribbean island, and we were staying in Punta Cana, an area known for its beautiful resorts and gorgeous beaches. We were here for a different purpose too, though, to see so many birds and wildlife and try and get some awesome species, especially ones that are endemic to the island of Hispaniola. I'm really excited to share this adventure with you, so come along with me as we explore a new country for the first time on the channel. I hope that little preview got you really excited for what's to come. But before we get into the adventure, I first wanted to set the stage for you. So my family and I were on a spring break trip in Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. We were mostly there for leisure and relaxing and just spending time at the resort and on the beach, but it was a new country, so I absolutely had to take the time to go birding too. There was bound to be birds around the resort, and I also did book a guided birding tour from Explora Eco Tours. That tour is what you're about to see, but a little bit about the country first. So the Dominican Republic is part of the island of Hispaniola, which consists of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. It is one of the Caribbean islands just southeast of Florida and the United States. Now, anytime you go to a new country, one of the top targets and birds you want to see are what are called endemics. And the island of Hispaniola has 33 of them. These are bird species that are only found on this island. On top of that, there's birds from the greater region of the Caribbean too. These are generally called Antillean, or they have Antillean in front of the rest of their name. And so these were some of the birds I was most looking forward to seeing, but I was going in pretty blind without a lot of expectations, just hoping to enjoy the trip. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the tour. We woke up bright and early at our resort, ready to catch a 6 a.m. shuttle from the northeast down to the southeast, where we would be birding at a place called the National Park of the East. And the birding and the birds got going pretty much immediately. This is a gray kingbird, one of the more common species I was seeing at the resort and here at this national park. We were birding along this kind of dense forest region that butted up against a different hotel and resort in this area. And all of a sudden, there were just birds everywhere as we walked along this trail. So many of these are lifers for me, so I'm not going to do the sound and animation every time, but I'm just going to list them out. This black-whiskered vireo was especially cool though, because apparently they're super skulky and often hard to see, so these views were amazing. The stolid flycatcher was another great addition and a new lifer to me as well. And then one bird I especially want to feature is the palm chat. That's because this species is the national bird of the Dominican Republic. You'll see this one a few more times throughout the video, but a very cool bird, and it's awesome to be able to see and to highlight the national bird. Now, not all birds were new to me. I actually saw some familiar faces. These warblers may have overwintered here or were migrating through and about to leave and head northward into the US. I've seen the Cape May warbler before, and then this northern parula was a lifer, but you can see it in the United States. Now, one of the stars of the show and an absolute highlight of this tour was the broad-billed tody. This is a species that most people want to see in the Dominican Republic. And although it looks like a hummingbird, it's actually most closely related to a family of kingfishers and motmots.
Critically endangered and localized.
And at this point, we completed the first segment of the tour, and we are rounding out to the actual ocean. We're looking over the Caribbean Sea now. We came across a pretty cool monument to Juanita and Pepe. This is a grave where two manatees were buried. These were actually pretty famous manatees, and they were the first to be rescued and rehabilitated and released in the wild in the Dominican Republic. Although they've now passed away, they're still a cool example of great conservation work in practice. Potentially my favorite bird from this trip was this lizard cuckoo. This is a huge bird. It might be hard to tell from the video, but it's quite large, and it appeared out of nowhere. My mom actually spotted it, and it was dead silent. So if we weren't looking in the right area, we might not have seen it. Apparently they usually hang out in dense vegetation, so it was really cool that this came out into the open, allowing pretty good views. Then looking up at this tree, we actually have a nest at the top of it. Palm swift flies by and a woodpecker or maybe a palm chat lands on the side of the trunk there, but up at the tippy top of the tree is a white-necked crow nest. Now, we don't get great views of them here, but it's still really cool to see them nesting in this location, and you'll see them a little bit closer in a second. Being a little bit of a nuisance was that national bird again, the palm chat, hopping around the leaves around this crow's nest. Didn't seem to mind too much though. Just like before, we were only getting Hispaniola mangoes in the shade for some reason, not getting the best of views of them. But we moved along and turned our attention a little bit out onto the actual sea itself to see the birds flying out there. Now, I'd seen these a few days prior on a whale watching excursion, but we had some awesome, magnificent frigate birds. That was a lifer to me a few days ago, but this is the first time I've ever gotten them on video. These by no means are rare at all. They're found in a lot of coastal areas, but they're still really cool, giant birds making a very unique silhouette out across the open ocean. Here's a brief look at the habitat we're birding right now. I believe the guide called this coastal mangrove habitat, or it was coastal forest potentially. And it had a lot of cool species, not just birds, like this lizard you're seeing here. And just to highlight why guides are so amazing when you're birding in an unfamiliar spot, is they'll get you birds like this. The Antillean piculet is a woodpecker species, one of the endemics on the island of Hispaniola, and it can be pretty hard to find, he was telling us. However, our guide knew that they nested in this tree, and we were able to see this bird and add it to our life list. That kind of local experience you only get from going with guides from the area. And finally, an unshadowed Hispaniolan mango. This is one of the two more likely species of hummingbirds we could have found while we were out here birding. And then in the midst of this dense forest, we had the best moment of the tour, by far. We got some incredible looks of the broad-billed toady yet again. Look at how cool this bird is. And this time we were just able to get such great views. It flew around and landed on a couple of different perches. This one was the top by far. I fired away so many photos that I'm very excited to edit soon. I'll flash a few JPEGs up on screen here that are totally unedited. I do plan to edit some of these photos soon and put them up on my Instagram, so give me a follow there so you don't miss that when I do. After that encounter, we had reached how far we were going to go till this point, so we turned back and headed down the trail again, but there were still a few surprises left. On top of the same tree that we saw the nesting Antillean piculet was this osprey. We get these in Utah. This is the second most widespread raptor in the world, but this was the best views I actually had ever seen of one. As promised, some better views of the white-necked crow. It has a really distinct red eye that is so different from the crows I'm used to seeing. Makes it look quite scary, that's for sure. But that's gonna do it for this tour part of the video, but stick around, there's more birds to find at the resort. Man, some of those bird species were really incredible. Now, one thing that's super awesome about the resort we're staying at is there's a lot of vegetation. Like, there's tons of palm trees and cana trees out there, and some of the landscaping and stuff does support some bird life too. It's not as cool as what we saw on the tour yesterday, but there's still some awesome species. So let me show you some of the birds I saw last night when I was out on a short, just little walk. So walking the back roads away from the pools and the beaches where the people were, you can actually find some decent wildlife, and I saw a good amount of birds just in the evening. The big surprise of this outing is I was able to add another lifer to my list that I didn't see on the tour, a Rivayan hummingbird. Much, much tinier than the Hispaniola and mangoes we saw the day before. And even though I was seeing repeat species, these are species I might not see for a long time, and I saw cool behaviors like this nest excavation by the woodpecker and seeing the palm chats nesting high up in the tree, similar to the crows from yesterday. So I was appreciating every sighting I get, because who knows when I'd get to see some of these bird species again. And lastly, we're gonna do a little bit of birding right now, and I'm gonna vlog a little bit more this time just because I have a little bit more time to kind of show you and talk through some of the stuff that I'm seeing. So let's wrap up our birding here in the Dominican Republic with another walk around this resort's property. So I was hoping to show you the terns, the royal terns, which is a lifer for me, and the brown pelicans flying out there we saw all day at the beach, but they appear not to be there. So I guess we'll have to come back and I'll show you them tomorrow, but we're gonna keep looking around the property for other stuff. So far, bird activity is pretty quiet right now. It's a little confusing. I don't know if it's something to do with the incoming storm, because it's supposed to rain tomorrow. It's a little windy and maybe they're hunkering down, but yeah, not seen a whole lot besides the palm swifts flying around, and I did not get those on video, but we're still kind of hopeful. I might by chance pick up another lifer. Hispaniola and parakeet would be a long shot. One of the red-legged thrush species, I think the eastern red-legged thrush is the one I'd be looking for around here. That would be a lifer. Maybe getting one of the doves, like the Zenaida dove, that would be awesome too, but it's been such a great time birding here in the Dominican Republic. It's hard to complain and ask for much more. And I'm not sure why that stretch of the area was not very full of birds, but we hit the outskirts of the resort and the birds started popping up everywhere. Some more palm chats on top of what I believe to be a light post, and then we came to this area between the resort and the pickleball courts that had tons of trees and a flooded habitat, and there were birds all over. I was so happy I had finally walked over here. I couldn't believe what I had missed up until this point, just hundreds of yards away from where we were sleeping. This white-headed pigeon was a lifer. Brand new bird for me that I would not have seen if I hadn't walked here otherwise. And off the sides of this path, down in the water, there were other species. A few of them were lifers, and a few of them I'd seen before. This white-cheeked pintail was a lifer. Alright, now a few familiar faces before another lifer, the common gallinule. These can be found in the US, and I've actually seen them before. Sadly, some employees gave them bread, which is kind of like junk food for birds. It doesn't really help them out very much, and it prevents them from eating good food for their diets. Now here's another lifer though, the West Indian whistling duck. Being unfamiliar with these species, I naively thought this was just a female of the pintail at first, before looking closer and realizing it was another species. Another one familiar to me, the great egret. Now this one was really cool though, because it was so close to us we could see the green right by its eyes and beak. Well dang, I should have came to this walkway earlier. It's a lot more sparse, like there's not as many people and buildings and stuff around here, and it's kind of flooded, offering a very different habitat than what we've looked at thus far. Got some really close views of a great egret and got a couple lifers too. This is awesome. And wouldn't you know it, another lifer, prairie warbler. I was surprised to see this bird up here because I was seeing mostly banana quit. I didn't expect a warbler, but really happy to see this bird just by chance. I mean, who am I kidding? I'm happy to see pretty much any bird, especially all these crazy awesome birds from the Dominican Republic. Well, wow, we've been walking along this habitat now and the sun's really going down, so we're running out of time, but just had a brief flyover, and luckily I had the state of mind to flip my camera into the fast capture mode and start firing away shots of that bird. That was a Hispaniolan Amazon, which is awesome. We thought it was a parakeet at first, but looking closer at the pictures, it has that red patch on its belly, which appears to be distinctive from what I'm seeing from the field guides. If I got that ID wrong, let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's another lifer, the Hispaniolan Amazon. Well, what the heck, we just heard their calls, and look over at the top of this tree, there's another one perched, so yeah, definite Hispaniolan Amazon on this one. So cool to see this parrot and add it to my life list. I believe this is my first non-introduced lifer of the parrot family. I've seen parrots before in the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, but I think those came originally from escaped pets and have descended after many generations. So this one felt a little extra special and was really, really cool. And we rounded out this little bird walk with the same bird we started with, a northern mockingbird. And then on our last full day, we woke up to a gorgeous sunrise. It was so pretty. On this last full day, we had one more thing on the agenda that is birding related. I returned to the exact same area because it was so good the night before, and this time I brought my family along to walk with me so I could show them this unique area that they had missed so far. Since we saw a lot of the species yesterday, there wasn't a ton of potential for lifers anymore. I was still hopeful I'd see something like a Zenaida dove, or maybe another surprise was along the way, but we started with the common gallinules walking around, and these were so close to us. I got some really, really great views that allowed for some good pictures too. A few of these doves caught my eye. Most of them are Eurasian collared doves, but I was looking through each of them closer to see if I could find that lifer Zenaida dove for myself, but I really just don't think I could make the call that either of these are one of the species I was looking for, so that one was going to be one I left on the table. Out in the water on the sides though, my family was loving seeing the turtles and the fish swimming around, so that was really fun. They don't get as excited for birds as I usually do, and this white-headed pigeon probably didn't mean a whole lot to them, even though it was a lifer for me. And I think it's really pretty with that scaly feather design on the back of its neck. And that song of the banana quit is going to round out the birds for this trip. We did see a couple iguanas towards the end of the trail, and actually there's probably about 10 of them up in the trees. So really cool because they either weren't out basking in the sun when I looked yesterday, or I just missed them somehow. That's going to bring the birding in the Dominican Republic to an end. My first video internationally. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I had a blast seeing this beautiful country and getting the chance to both explore and see some of the wildlife here. The broad-billed tody was probably the highlight for me, but there were plenty of other cool birds along the way and some amazing lifers. I'll put my trip report in the description if you want to see the full list of birds I saw, as well as all the eBird checklists I submitted. But with that, thank you as always for watching these videos. I will see you in the next one. Happy birding.